David Fincher is undeniably one of the greatest and most influential filmmakers. He stands as one of my favorite directors. I love how intricate, detailed, and at times sophisticated his movies are from a directorial standpoint. So, I'd like to discuss all of his movies, ranked from worst to best. In the last place comes Fincher's 2020 love letter to Citizen Kane. In many ways, to cinema as well, Mank. It would be an understatement to say that I felt bored while watching this movie. The black and white visuals are impressive, the cast is stellar, but the entire story feels mundane, with dialogues that never engaged me as a viewer. I haven't watched Citizen Kane yet, and perhaps that was a mistake beforehand. However, I do understand its place in the cinematic landscape, and I don't believe this was the most interesting way to tell the story. Next up, we have Alien 3, and we all know that even Fincher himself has said many times that he does not acknowledge this film. Personally, I do recognize it as a fun, somewhat garbage movie that brings me nostalgia, for better or worse. It's one of those examples of what if the studios wouldn't interfere and allowed filmmakers to do their job. Choosing to shoot the film without a script most of the time was definitely not the right choice. But, you know, if someone were to say, let's grab snacks and watch something dumb on a Friday night, Alien 3 seems like one of the reasonable choices, even though it's disposable. I've seen Panic Room countless times on TV, and though it isn't high on my list, it's one of the underrated Fincher films. There's plenty of tension and a terrific pace. Jodie Foster, Kristen Stewart, and even dreadlock Jared Leto make this movie quite enjoyable. It's one of those Fincher Hitchcockian type of movies where the influence can be seen, molding him as one of the better directors when it comes to thrillers. The Social Network is widely recognized as one of the greatest movies, but for me, it falls in the middle pack of Fincher's filmography. Jesse Eisenberg is one of my least favorite actors. He either plays the same guy in every movie, or just plays himself. Yet, I'd say yeah, this is probably his best performance that I thoroughly enjoy. However, Andrew Garfield truly outshined everyone. But that's not a surprise. It's an interesting story, and the way Sorkin constructs the script is impressive. Still, it's definitely not one of those movies that I rewatch often. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button is higher than The Social Network for me because I love Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett. They both deliver terrific performances, making it one of Fincher's most emotional movies. It's thought-provoking and surreal, with visual effects that, back in the day, seemed like the best thing ever. Also, it's one of those Fincher movies that is perfect for a theatrical experience. I mean, it grossed over $300 million in box office revenue. I think over time, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button has gotten bigger appreciation. Zodiac is a true crime story set around real events involving the Zodiac Killer. I've seen this movie 3 times because I wish I loved it more than many other people do. It has everything I need from a movie. Stellar cast, great atmosphere, and mystery. A very dark and moody adventure through San Francisco that only David Fincher knows how to capture. This movie has to be one of the best book adaptations. Gone Girl is almost a perfect psychological mystery. Rosamund Pike brings unnerving vibes as you realize how revengeful and unstable her character is on screen. This is by far her best performance, even though she is a great actress. Ben Affleck gives a very subtle role as well. Ah, yes, I shouldn't talk about, well, I guess I'm going to. Fight Club is one of the most essential movies in David Fincher's resume. It's crazy how ahead of its time the movie was back in the day, and still, to this day, can be considered a masterpiece from a visual and storytelling standpoint. Over the years, I love this movie more and more. There are so many interpretations that I could give, but let's say for now that Fight Club is a very nihilistic, surreal, and experimental film. Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, simply put, were amazing. Remember, never talk about Fight Club. It seems like a movie tailor-made for perverse, no-holds-barred minds, akin to those of David Fincher. Sadly to say, I'm in that group too, but what matters is having the skill set to read between the lines. And that's typically how Fincher crafts his movies, with The Killer being an example of that. Michael Fassbender demands screen time, as he embodies a narcissistic, attention-to-detail assassin. We don't get enough of his story on why he is who he is, but I think the main point was to make the character a mystery, only giving us one side of him, which in this case, simply works. After seeing this movie already 2 times, I admit it gets better with each viewing despite some of the simplistic plot issues. It is fun, absurd, bizarre, and so entertaining. The Game is somewhat an underrated work and one of Fincher's greatest films. I watched The Game myself only this year as preparation for The Killer, and I was literally so impressed by this film. Not only from a direction standpoint, but the twist truly got me, and that doesn't happen often. Michael Douglas is on display here. He truly is. The deeper the story goes, the sadder his character gets, and at the same time, he evolves in front of the audience. To those who may say this is not a realistic film, truly got it all wrong, because Fincher here creates cinema with no boundaries for the purpose of entertainment, and that's how it should be. This movie wasn't that high on the list back in the day, but over time, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo completely made me appreciate it more. This movie builds up the mystery and evolves all the events at a terrific, kind of slow pace, but one that you don't feel as an audience. I love how characters rarely change in Fincher movies, and that all of them are very flawed, yet they're able to solve problems as vulnerable human beings. Daniel Craig and Rooney Mara are, simply put, one of the best duos in any Fincher movie. An amazing investigation crime thriller, one of my all-time favorites from Fincher. I think Seven is a pure masterclass, and one of the movies that continues to influence the genre. It is the one film that I can rewatch often, especially on days when I am in the mood for a dark, depressing, and sophisticated murder story. C7N truly excels in its perfectly executed detective tone. Rainy streets, filthy neighborhoods, underground life, corrupt and dirty minds, all packed in one. It's just beautiful to lay your eyes on and be in awe of the beauty that Fincher and his team were able to create. And after all these decades, it still looks so clean. Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are incredible. They both give one of their best performances ever. It is just an iconic movie. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to hit the subscribe button for more content to come, and see you down the road.